If tomorrow all the things were gone, I'd work for all my life, and I had to start again with just my children and my wife. I thank my lucky stars to be living here today, 'cause the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Central Valley Talk. My name is Ray Johns. I'm your host, and the name of the show is Ray Johns, American Patriot. And before we go any further, I just want to give another shout out to my wonderful coach up in Madeira, Eddie Chapa. Eddie, I hope you're watching today. We love you, buddy. There's a bunch of us, I think, coming to see you tomorrow on Saturday, and I look forward to seeing you, buddy. I'm going to bypass doing an American Patriot today because I'm really, really uptight about the Kavanaugh thing, and Gary and I are going to discuss that today. I got to tell you, I want to shout out to two outstanding senators, Republicans, both senators. Senator Ted Cruz from Texas, who did a wonderful job, addressing this Kavanaugh thing, and Lindsey Graham, who actually put Dianne Feinstein in her place she needed to be. And he said, this is the biggest political scam in my history in politics. What a wonderful man. You know, I really like Lindsey Graham, and I was telling Gary prior to the show that he was my front runner. He and Chris Christie, the governor of New Jersey, they were my two front runners. I was trying to decide who I was going to vote for between the two of them, and then Donald Trump threw his hat in the ring, and that kind of did it for me. The day he did it, I said, that's who I'm voting for. I knew without a doubt that it was going to be Donald Trump. But I like Lindsey Graham. He is he stood up, and Gary and I are going to discuss this today. There were 9 prominent Republicans that I'm really upset with. They didn't step up to the plate for whatever reason. Hey, there are times in this world where you got to step up and be a man, regardless of the circumstances. You just got to step up and do that, And I feel like they had an opportunity to say things and do things. This thing has gone far enough, and it's ridiculous that now they're going to have an FBI investigation, as I understand. I just found that out on the way to the studio, and me personally, I'm glad. My problem is I don't know if I trust the FBI. But let me bring in my buddy here. Gary?
How you doing?
Glad to have you here today, buddy, and I need you. This thing has really gotten me, man. It really did. The emotions of Mr. Kavanaugh yesterday, talking about his child, that really affected me. Here is a great man who is going to have a blemish on his record regardless of what happens with this thing.
Well, is he? I look at Clarence Thomas, what they put him through at the time, because I remember that, watched it.
Anita Hill, yeah.
Yeah, Anita Hill. And here it is this many years later, and as far as I'm concerned, Clarence Thomas is absolutely fantastic. Whatever Anita Hill said or did,
it didn't matter,
no.
Doesn't it? You hardly ever use.
No, I'm not going to. I don't even want to think about it. When I see Clarence Thomas, I certainly don't think of Anita Hill.
No, absolutely.
Okay, and I feel the same way about this guy. Well, the thing about it is, this guy is a heck of a guy. I don't see how he's taken all this, quite frankly.
Strong man. He's a tough man. And he stood right up and fought back. He didn't back down.
But Ray, looking at it from the way I guess you're looking at it, I'm looking at it. Sure, you're disappointed and you're upset and you're it's just awful, right?
Well, Gary, they're putting this man through there for what? Just think about that. For what are they putting this man through this, and his family?
Well, let's get into that. For what?
Okay. Because
that is important. I'll tell you what it's for. It's for power and money.
Absolutely.
These people are being paid off.
Yes.
Okay, like today, Flake says, well, he wants to have this investigation. Well, he had all that planned. He was called in a room among, a few people, and he was told, if you will get this delayed, this will be that much money for you when you leave, because he's leaving. He's not coming back. Well, we're talking about tens of millions of dollars are being involved with this thing.
Yeah.
All right. Now, if you know, we talk about that guy. Let's talk about Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton raped a gal, and more than one.
Back when he was governor. Yeah.
Back when he was governor.
Yeah.
And look at the sexapades he had. And these same people
Yeah.
that are getting on Kavanaugh with this fake stuff. This was not fake with Clinton.
No.
But they defended Clinton.
You know, somebody
Now,
said,
why would they defend Clinton, but then not defend this guy with false accusations?
we both know the answer to that, without a doubt.
Yeah, it's power and money, and
Yeah.
and the answer to people like ourselves, you know, Republicans all over the nation that are watching this, they're just as disgusted as we are.
Sure they are.
But let me tell you who else is disgusted. There's a lot of good, naive, gullible Democrats that are disgusted because they're not that way.
No.
They just happen to be a Democrat.
Yeah.
But that's the end of it in reality.
And they're actually, I talked to some people, they're actually ashamed of what's
course.
going on
Wouldn't
right
you
now.
be?
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, you know, there's people that are Democrat simply because they're born that way. You know what I mean? I was one at one time. So were you. So was Donald Trump.
Yeah.
But the point I'm getting at with that is there's a decency lacking in who is controlling the Democrats right now.
Absolutely.
And there's an evil.
Which is what Lindsey Graham said yesterday. You know,
That, yeah.
My goodness.
Well, there's no decency, there's no integrity, and there's an underlying evil and a meanness. And there's, you can't describe it anymore. So how can you be a decent person that just happens to be a Democrat, and you vote pretty much Democrat, but how can you be anything but ashamed of your party for what you're seeing happen right now?
You know, I want to throw a little something in here, Gary, and you'll remember this, of course. I think you and I may have discussed this on a past show. You remember during the debates when Hillary Clinton had that little smirk on her face because she thought she was going to win. So she said to Donald Trump, she said, "Are you prepared to accept the outcome of this election?" And Donald Trump says, "I will accept whatever happens." You know, basically, that's what he said. Well, guess what? Hillary Clinton didn't.
No, they didn't.
You know?
The whole thing didn't. And that's what it's all about. And I'll tell you, they didn't accept it because we're talking about, I know I keep coming back to that.
No, but that's what it is.
But we're talking about trillions of dollars.
Absolutely.
Not just the people you're seeing on TV, but the people behind the scenes.
Yes,
Okay.
the people behind the scenes.
And so to kind of make it what it really is, there is a group of people who have no integrity, have no decency.
It's obvious.
And it's obvious to everybody now, where in the past maybe it wasn't so obvious. So they're exposing themselves to something of which it is disgraceful. And it's something that upsets a lot of Americans, not just Republicans, a lot of Democrats.
Like you said, a lot of Democrats.
And there's also Republicans, what are called the rhinos. They're just as bad as the Democrats.
Oh, yeah, we've got a lot of them.
And we got a lot of them. And that's going to come to an end because I think most of them are either quitting, resigning, or they're not going to get reelected.
The walkaways.
You know, walkaways.
I love it when you say the walkaways.
But I think that there's what you have to ask yourself, isn't this a tragedy that we've become a country that we're talking about the Supreme Court, one of the most important, well, they're more than the president. They're there forever. Well, the president has to leave.
Yeah.
One of the most important to American people is a Chief Justice.
Sure.
Now, isn't it something when some 15-year-old girl that went 35 years ago when she was 15 years old, or 16
and he was
or whatever.
17, by the way. They're both underage.
The point is, so was I back in those days. But what I'm trying to get at, isn't it something when somebody like that can determine who becomes on the seat on the Supreme Court?
I never look at it like that, but you're right. You know, and somebody brought something to my attention. If you dig long enough, you're going to find something on somebody. And what's to say that these people wouldn't come up? And a lawyer told me this. I'm not about to mention his name at the gym. We were talking the other day. And he told me this. He said, "Ray, what's to say that they could dig. They're going to find something. And then they come up, like you said, we're talking a lot of money, and say, look, here's what we want you to say. We're going to pay you to say this."
That's what happens.
And yes, that's what's happening.
In fact, Collins,
You know?
Senator Collins, she was offered $850,000 to vote no on Kavanaugh.
Good grief.
Think about that. So here's some
That's
gal
almost $1 million,
sitting out there,
man.
And here's something she can't do.
Yeah.
She can't say when. She can't say where. So
She has no credibility.
so
None.
how
Absolutely
how can Kavanaugh say I wasn't there if she doesn't say when?
Yeah.
How can he say where if she doesn't say
Yeah.
where?
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's in a, he'd sit there and say, well, Ray, 36 years ago you were in Las Vegas. Mm-hmm. I was? When?
Yeah.
Well,
I'm not sure.
I'm not going to tell you when, but I know you were there. Well, where?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure of that either.
I was probably playing baseball, but when was that?
Yeah, but the point is you was in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And you may or may not even been in Las
Yeah.
Vegas. That's the point. Mm-hmm. He may or not even, according to based on what we do know about the time frame, he wasn't even in the country.
Yeah.
But this is something that she's being paid to come up with an allegation which is bogus. Okay, now we get Dianne Feinstein in the game. Well, why didn't she bring that out last summer? Why is she bringing it out 1 week before it was supposed to have been voted?
Absolutely. She's hung on to it
She's
all this for
that woman
obviously
is
for an
as
obvious
evil
reason.
and corrupt and crooked as Hillary Clinton.
Exactly what Mr. Graham said, Senator Graham said yesterday. You know.
She's
And
every
it's-
bit as bad as Hillary Clinton.
Absolutely.
So
she
then
is.
you got to ask yourself, if you're a Democrat out here, and you're not the Looney Tune Democrat, I mean, you're not one of these
Yeah.
snowflakes or whatever. And I mean, wouldn't you be just totally embarrassed?
Absolutely.
Here's another thing too. Let's say that let's talk about the women and the men.
Okay.
Okay. Feminists, in the true form of feminism, they're not the same people as the women are. There's a lot of women that are not feminists.
Sure.
Now, there's nobody that's going to disagree with the fact that women should be respected, treated equally, and so forth, right?
Without a doubt.
Without a doubt. But see, this goes beyond that. Mm-hmm. And these women get caught up in this feminist thing, which has nothing to do really with women. They're using that as a tool. So if that's the case then, Ray, which it is the case, there's so many women are starting to see right now with this. They're saying, you know what, feminism, I'm not a feminist.
Yeah.
I'm a woman, but I'm not a feminist.
Yeah.
And we agree that women and males the same way. Males are sitting there kowtowing to feminists. Sure. Stand up to them.
Well, let's look at it like this. And I thought about this. I almost called you on it, and I thought I'm just going to bring it up on the show and talk to Gary.
Yeah.
Look what happened. Let's talk about ethnicity. Look what happened with the African Americans, with the blacks, for instance. All of a sudden, they took a full turn because the Democrats came in there and said, "Hey, we're gonna be on your side. The old white Republicans are against you, but we're gonna help you. We're gonna do everything we can to help you." And it took a full circle. And they used that, and they used it, and they continue. Well, the same thing now is happening with the feminists,
exactly.
with the women.
That's
it's the same exact thing. I was going to call you and talk to you about that.
It's the same thing.
It is. It is.
So what
Gary.
does it require? It requires an informed populace. Mm-hmm. So if you happen to be black or if you happen to be a feminist, then you need to sit there and be more informed. And
Thank you.
And
Yes.
once you are, then you're saying, well, wait a minute, because here's what these walkaways are finding. I don't care what color they are.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
That's
But you know
insignificant.
what they're finding when they're walking away and going on this other? They're welcome. And the people hug them and proud of them. Well, I mean, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
If some guy
absolutely.
was sitting over here and he was a
Libtard.
Yeah, libtard, and all of a sudden he comes over, you'd sit there and feel pretty good
You're
about it.
doggone right.
And you'd shake his hand.
Somebody
hug
is
him or
woke.
something.
He's all of a sudden he's awake.
The important thing is, that's right, it's kind of like he's saved, But I don't care if they had Jesus Christ up there for Supreme Court right now. He'd have to be going through the same exact thing by these people who are in it for the power, the money,
it,
and
Gary. That's it.
Exactly. And I think that they're. I mean, some of those people, when you watch them on that TV or something, man, those people are mean, nasty.
They'll do anything. I'm telling you, Gary, they're scary, aren't they?
They are scary. I mean,
they're
I'm glad
really
I don't have
scary.
to run across them. Well,
Yeah.
I wouldn't. I'd leave where it was they were.
Yeah.
I'd
Me
tell you,
too.
hey,
I'd be right there with you.
I don't get. I mean, you're just in a whole different world than I'm
Yeah.
in, you know. But we unfortunately are. It says a lot for our country, and it's a real weakness when some gal who was 15 years old,
You
30-some
put
years
this
old.
say this again. You put this so perfectly. Say that.
Well,
Gary.
anybody. Let's just take.
But let's take a 15-year-old girl is helping determine. 15
Yeah.
at the time, a Supreme Court justice. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, without a vote.
Yeah.
Of the
Without
people?
a vote. Without a vote.
Okay, now you take, like, for instance, right now, let's just take Fresno High School here down the street. There's some gal in there that 36 years from now, she determines who's going to be on the Supreme Court. Think about that.
How sad is that? How sad is that? How wrong is that?
I mean, think about that from the standpoint of the health of the country.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think the founding fathers ever dreamed that something like this would
Of course they
happen.
did not.
But these people are crooked. Once you get to the point to realize just how crooked and corrupt and mean and hateful and evil they are, that's a thing. I mean, it's hard to comprehend that because you're not that way.
Because I was going to say it. You know, how do we understand that? Because we're not that way.
And we
You
don't know people that are that
No,
way.
I don't know people that like that.
Because you don't associate with people
Right.
like that. It just, they're not going to want to associate with you.
No, not. I can guarantee you that. You
Okay,
know?
and you're not going to.
No.
So then, consequently, we don't do that.
Yeah.
You got to remember, a libtard goes by feel and belief, and that becomes their fact. It has nothing to do with the facts.
No. No.
I believe it. Therefore, it's a fact.
I can't remember. I think it was Ted Cruz said this morning when I was watching a cap of what he'd said. And he said, these people don't care about... Are you kidding? And you've said that, Garrett.
Yeah.
These people do not care about the truth. The
No.
truth is the farthest thing from their mind.
Right.
You know?
They don't need the truth because the truth to them and how they think this way, I'm saying the missing gene, I always say that. They have no common sense. But the truth to them is what they believe. There was this gal came on there and she says, well, you have to believe the accuser. Well, why do I have to believe the accuser?
Why? The accusers don't... People that accuse
And
don't lie?
So that's their facts.
Yeah.
Somebody says, I believe this, that's their fact. You know, I'm surprised most of those people, however old they are, and maybe they do, I'm surprised they don't put stockings out there because they believe in Santa Claus to this day.
You know, there's been some things said, and I don't know who said it, but in the light of all this yesterday, and I watched so much of this stuff, someone was criticizing Kavanaugh and saying, well, you know, here's a guy here, he's real emotional, you know, and he got angry. You let somebody mess with your family, you let somebody mess with your good name, and I don't care who you are,
Yeah.
you're gonna be angry. The man is a human being like everybody else.
Well, thank
you know?
God he is.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, I'm glad he's like that.
I'm glad he is too. I'm very glad he's the way he is.
You know, I mean, my
Who's
God.
not going to respond to that?
Well,
you know?
because he's going to respond to what is right by the law and the love of his country and his countrymen. That's a feeling, right?
Yeah.
And my God, a guy sitting up there that didn't have that, which like Feinstein, she doesn't have something like that.
No.
I mean, that gal has absolutely zero conscience.
She fell all over herself yesterday. She looked ridiculous.
Well,
you know?
you know, there's so many of those people that they just don't have a conscience.
Mm-hmm.
And
I don't care what anybody said. I'm going to say this. She leaked that, and she's passing the buck. They ask her about the leak, and she says, "Oh well, if I'm not mistaken, it came from one of Dr. Ford's people."
Yeah.
And then she leans over and she talks to somebody, and she came back and she said, "They said, well, we understand that a member of your staff," and she said, "No." And then she leans over and she says, "Well, I just checked with my staff, and it didn't come from them." She fell all over herself.
But she's a representative of that side of the ledger. You know?
Yeah. Unfortunately,
you got to keep that in mind. And I don't know. I think the delay is of course that's part of their strategy. So we have till next week now. Mm-hmm. Well, you watch, they're going to come up with something else.
Oh, of course they are.
And that'll go on. What they're aiming for is they want it to go up to the election because they think they're going to win.
Gary, I've got to tell you, man, and I don't know, you and I are always on sync with most things, and I think you're probably on sync with me with this. I don't trust the FBI. With all the things that's happening, and now they're doing the investigation with all the things with Comey, I don't know we don't know what they're going to come up with.
Ray,
that scares me.
Yeah, but Ray, that's a sad fact. Also, who can trust the FBI? I mean, I don't trust them a lick.
Yeah.
I mean, they can concoct evidence and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
So, no, it goes to show the American people like ourselves just how corrupt and dangerous we're in right now with our CIA, FBI, Department of Justice, two-law system, and so forth. I mean, it's pretty dangerous. And then when somebody from, let's get back to that, 36 years, you go look in your yearbook, and there's this gal there, and by God, she comes up with an allegation that determines the Supreme Court.
And you know what? Four of the people who she got to come and, verify her stories, none of them have done that. None of them have come forward. They all say, yes, we were there. We don't, and one of them wasn't even there. He said, he says, and it goes back to what you said, because we don't know when it was.
Well, my God, I go back 30-some years on parties and stuff, and I don't know who was there, who wasn't, or any of that. Nobody does.
He's going to remember
but
that.
But that was all a plan, and they found this ding-dong, that Dr. Ford, I mean.
Mm-hmm. There's no telling how much money. I'd like to know what kind of house she's going to have next week.
They get this ding-dong. She's a radical nut, and she's a libtard who happens to be a doctor. I don't know how the hell she got that, but...
Well, like you said, you stay in school enough.
I think you stay in school long enough,
you're going to get a PhD.
Yeah, you're going to get a PhD. That's probably what happened with her. Her family's rich. Mm-hmm. She's a ding-dong. Let's just keep her in school, So anyway, that's how I see it with that. And I just see it as a real black mark on all Americans. But here's the thing you got to think about.
That's the sad part, Gary.
We get on certain people like Flake and, these people who disappoint us. And you got to think, though, whose fault ultimately is that? It's the American people for voting those people in.
That's it.
I often wonder, how in the world did you vote for that person? Yeah. And that's part of the indoctrination and so forth that goes on. Because here's the thing you want to remember about this press, and I was thinking about that. Russia, all communist countries, they own just one newspaper, if you will, And, of course, I like to use Russia because it's easy to remember.
Sure.
But they had Provident. Yeah. Well, they just had one.
Yeah.
That's it. Well, guess what? We just have one. Because even though it's CBS, NBC, all the alphabet, but think about, there is one person that is determining what they're going to say, and they all say the same thing.
Exactly.
You could flip channels all you want, and that word for word, the talking points are going to be the same.
Sure it is.
So that means
because they're all backed by the same people.
But we're backed by the same people. Mm-hmm. Okay, now you take the New York Times and
Wall Street Journal.
Yeah, what is it? Washington Post.
Washington Post. Boston Globe.
All that is owned, controlled, one person. Mm-hmm. So we are, even though we have different channels on our TV to go through. Actually, we only need one.
Yeah, because they're all going to say the same thing.
They're all going to say the same thing, and so. People aren't getting the information correct. They're getting indoctrination, propaganda, So that's dangerous for our country. And I don't know how to solve that. That free speech thing is, they can carry that as far as they want, it appears. They can say about anything.
Yeah.
So I don't know, you're upset, I'm upset. I think
very upset
everybody's
about this.
upset.
I really am.
Well,
yeah.
I think if you're an American, you should be upset. Mm-hmm. If not,
Gary, I thought about this in the middle of the night last night. I woke up, sat on the side of the bed, and said, "My goodness, man, what are they doing to this good man?"
Yeah, and by what they're doing to that good man, what are they doing to all of us as Americans?
Sure,
it's not good for us what they're doing.
No,
obviously,
it's not good for us.
And so anyway, it's a real sad deal that we're going through right now, and that's why that's why a lot of people are upset. Mm-hmm. I mean, people are just totally, they can't sleep at night.
I've had calls all day. You wouldn't believe people, and I pick up the phone and they said, "Ray, what do you think of this Kavanaugh thing? And I mean, I had to tell a fella, look, I got a radio show to do. I'll talk to you about, watch my show. I'll talk to you about, we're gonna discuss it. Gary, we're gonna take a little break here.
Sure.
And we'll be back here in a little bit. I'm so glad you're with us. Stick with us. Stay with us. Hang in there. Gary's going to come back. I'm going to come back. And we're going to continue this talk. So we're going to be back in, say, 2 in about 2.
Forget the men who died, who gave that right to me, and I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea. From Detroit down to Houston and New York to LA, where there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say.
Okay, I'm back with my good buddy Gary, and we're of course we're going to discuss a couple other things, but we're talking about Kavanaugh and what's happening, and like you heard Gary said, it's been postponed for what, a week, Gary?
Yeah. I think what everybody needs to do in regard to that, because we know the issue.
Yeah.
Okay, know that it is what it is. Just know that it is all about the money and the power, and the Democrats are not accepting the fact that they're not in power of the presidency at any rate, or in the House, or in the Senate.
Yeah.
They have no power at this point, but they have the money that they are losing because of the new administration in all areas, right? So obviously they want to get it back. But what the American people has to do is just say this to themselves. Just say, okay, from my standpoint of what I understand, common decency, respect for not only myself but for other people, and the morals and the values that I stand on, this is what it's about.
Yeah.
And then I have to ask myself, does this ring a bell to me? I mean, does this sound right, what's going on to me? If you say yes, then you're a lost cause.
Yeah.
But if you sit there and say, no, I don't like that, and my mother did. We were all raised by mothers.
Yeah.
Man, my mother never would have suggested that I think like these feminists.
No.
You go to ball games, Little League and stuff, you see those soccer moms, I guarantee you about 90% were probably libtards. Because the other people are sitting in the stands and watching the game, so the umpire didn't call a strike, should have. Maybe he called him out and should have called him safe. But they sit there, and that's part of the game.
Yeah.
But boy, that soccer mom goes running out there.
I've seen it.
I have a nephew that coached for years, youth program, and he says, man, I had to finally quit. I says, what? He says, man, I just couldn't take the parents anymore. You heard that before.
Oh, well, I've been asked a lot of times to give hitting lessons to kids, and I want the parents to come because they want to be there with the kids, but I want them to just sit there and let me do it and not interfere. And finally I just said, you know what, I'm not going to do this anymore.
I couldn't do it.
No.
But I say I couldn't, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
But Ray, I want to also something that affects everybody.
Okay.
And they should be aware of it. And I want to talk about the tariff.
Let's talk about that. China?
And we'll use China. Of course, there's tariffs going on all over.
Yeah. Let's talk about that.
But here's what I thought, and then I'll go from there.
Okay.
But I thought this was going to have a significant increase on all the stuff that we were buying as consumers. And I thought...
Just the opposite is happening.
Well, and then all of a sudden I start seeing it's not happening, right? And I thought, well, that is so weird, because I thought, boy, we're going to have an instant inflation on everything that we was going to cost.
I thought the same thing, Gary. I remember thinking, you and I never discussed it, but I thought the same thing.
Well, I was curious about it, and so I found out why it isn't.
That's what we want to know. I want to know it
That's
too.
what you want to know, right? Just like I did. Okay, I'm going to use an example, a toaster.
Okay.
And down at the store, you go down to Walmart or something, and you want to buy a toaster, and let's say the price is $60.
Okay.
Okay, now this Trump puts this tariff on. Is that stove now going to cost $80 or $100?
Well, you would think so.
You would think so.
That's what you would think.
That's what you think. No, that's kind of what I thought. But in reality, what happens is with that tariff, it has to do with last sale, and that's the term that they use. Okay, so that toaster comes into the port. Now, it was made in China for $10. They keep that $10 in mind.
Okay.
It comes to the port and comes into the port and say, by the time it gets here, let's say it's $40. Then it goes to the store and it's sold to you for $60. Something like that. The point is, now, because of that tariff, 25% on $40 as opposed to 25% on $10. The last sale, as they consider how the tariff is computed, the last sale you would think was be the $40.
Yeah.
But no, it's determined on the production part.
That's beautiful. I love it.
You get it right away,
yeah.
didn't you?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So what is 25% of 40? I guess it's
That'd be $10, wouldn't it?
yeah, $10. So instead of $10, it's $2.50. Right. So what's happening
That's great, Gary.
Okay,
That makes sense. That makes
Yeah, and that's big though, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely it is.
Right. So then you go to the store, and so that toaster before the tariff was $60. It could be it's still $60, and it could be it's up as high as $62.50. Now, $2.50, is that going to stop you from buying that stove?
Not at all.
I mean, that toaster?
No.
Okay, then, the store guy himself may absorb it. I mean, they're all, that same 60, how many times in the store come out, 20% off on toasters. So it's negligible. It's not even seen. Nobody even, so that's why we are not having, because I was told by Democrats, the few that I do know, oh man, he says everything's going to cost, it's going to be twice as much.
I heard the same thing.
You did?
Yeah, absolutely.
And at the time, I had nothing to rebut that with. I didn't know.
No, I accepted it as fact. I went, oh my gosh, I just accepted it as fact.
Yeah, I figured that $60 toaster now is going to cost probably $80 to $100. I just accepted that, right? No, that toaster may not change at all.
Yeah.
Or it may cost $1 more.
Yeah.
Or are you going to stop buying it?
No, not at all.
So that's what's happening, and that's why we're having this tremendous growth, because now the people are going to make that toaster here instead of over there.
Yeah.
And so now what does that do? That employs American people.
Puts people to work.
It puts people to work, starts factories and this kind of thing. Man, when you consider that we lost 60,000 factories since that WTO, the World Trade Order.
Yeah.
Well, Ray, that World
tremendous.
Trade Order idea goes way. People are trying to get that way back. The first one that really became what we call the father of globalism, if you will, was George Bush Sr. With that World Trade Order.
Yeah.
Well, he's part of that establishment elite that controls the world. Yeah. There's only a few of them. In fact, 8 people, I think it is, control like 50% of the world's wealth.
I've read that.
You've read that. And as far as what we're talking about as the real top up there, I don't know how many. It's not very many. And but these people are the ones that are controlling the United States and other countries. It's not just the United States.
Yeah.
And it's not just the American people that we're talking about when we talk about the establishment. We're talking about foreign people.
Sure.
That stand to lose trillions of dollars because of what Trump's done.
Yeah.
And it's pretty interesting and pretty simple to figure. In the past, the trillions went to them. With Trump, the trillions come to us. Bottom line. So obviously there's X amount of trillion.
Yeah.
So if they're getting the trillion, well, guess where it's come from? It's coming from you and I.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Trump comes along, and instead of them getting the trillion, you and I get the trillion.
Yeah.
That's just simple.
Yeah.
That's all. That's the difference. Otherwise, if that wasn't the case, the trillionaires will all love Trump.
Very true. Because they're getting.
Think about it.
Yeah.
How come I'm so happy? How come they're so sad? Because that's trillions of dollars that's coming this way
Coming
instead of
back into the
Yeah.
Americans.
And the American people are going to become happier as they start to realize certain things, which we talked about during break.
Mm-hmm.
When they start to realize how much they're and Trump wants to lower taxes even more.
I know that.
Okay, well, why? Because that's how you get the trillions back to the people, and that's what he's trying to do, and that's what he's got some more years to do this. But he needs a Republican Congress and he needs a Republican Senate.
Yeah.
Not rhinos. He doesn't. The only reason, in fact, he said it. The only reason he put up with the rhinos because they're Republican.
Yeah.
But he's for getting rid of those rhinos just as much as you
Sure
and
is.
I, or just as much as he is a Democrat.
Mm-hmm.
You see,
Because they're just as harmful.
they're just as harmful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and those. And then you got guys like that Flake that can sit there and he's a Republican.
Yeah.
But look what he can do.
Sure.
And all he has to do is say, "Yeah, I'm voting for Kavanaugh."
Mm-hmm.
And just that's just one. We're going to go through like the wall funding and all that.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, it's going to get down to Republicans deciding it because the Democrats are already 100% against anything Trump does.
Yeah.
They were against lowering your taxes. Can you believe that? And how can somebody vote for somebody like that?
It doesn't make any sense.
Okay,
we
now-
talked about it before.
Well, you mentioned, the black
Mm-hmm.
person who's a Democrat. How can they be a Democrat? This doesn't make sense because why are they willing to sit there, live in a ghetto, or work at some menial deal, and do all that?
They're still, sadly enough, Gary, and you and I both know they're still buying the hype.
Still
Yeah.
buying the hype.
Yeah.
And then to turn around and money they should be getting goes to
Sure.
the trillionaires.
Yeah.
The trillions.
Sure.
Okay, now think about this. So I get welfare, I get food. But you just get enough to live in a ghetto. I mean, is that really what you think your life's
It's a
supposed to be
never-ending
all
cycle
about?
with that, Yeah.
It's sad, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Because they
Very
don't
much
need
so.
to be doing that. Well, and what's encouraging is the amount of black employment is really going through the roof. So there's people that are sitting in that ghetto that says, "Hey, I'm tired of this," so they go out and get a job,
Mm-hmm. Sure.
and all of a sudden,
And he's making that available
Right,
with his,
right, right.
You said earlier his vocational plan is ideal for the inner cities.
Yes,
I
exactly.
mean, well, that's what it's geared for.
well, that's
Yeah.
that's right. So you're going to have more and more people that do that. Well, then they become examples. Some guy you've seen there on the street corner for the last 5 years, all of a sudden you don't see him. So whatever happened to old Joe? Well, he got a job.
Sure.
And all of a sudden, here comes old Joe with a new car, and he's moving out of the neighborhood.
Yeah. he's just cruising through now to see what it used to look like.
Yeah, he's moving out of the neighborhood. And he said, "Well, how in the world did he do that?" Well, heck, he got a job.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what kind of a job? Well, he might be a welder. He might be a truck driver or whatever.
And see, that's going to catch on.
That'll
You're right,
catch on,
Jerry. They say, well, you know what? Old Joe did that.
Yeah.
How come I can't do that?
Yeah.
I've been knowing Joe for years.
And
you know?
all of a sudden, you got some mother telling her kid, says, "Well, why don't you do like Joe?
Yeah,
You get a job and you'll have what he's got.
exactly.
Or why can't you do something like Gladys?"
Yeah.
And then telling her daughter, and you could have a job and learn a skill, and now you're enjoying what you're supposed to be enjoying. But see, that's the trillions that these people have been getting from the backs of all us out here.
Absolutely. From the backs of all of us. All
Yeah,
of a sudden it's
yeah.
coming back. Trump's bringing it back for the people.
Yeah, I don't care if you're a businessman. I don't care if you're a wage earner or whatever. It's coming back to everybody.
Yes, it is.
You see? And it's coming back because you're being forced to take some of it back, because when he lowers your taxes, that means you've been forced to take some of it,
I love it. I absolutely love it.
So that's where I think that part of the education or the get away from this indoctrination and get. You go to college to learn what? You go to college anymore. At one time, yeah, you went to college to learn this and learn that, but you go there now to be indoctrinated. So you come out and preach to somebody else in the way of becoming a school teacher. So you're in classroom. We see that all the time.
Oh, sure we do.
Where the teachers in the classroom are influencing their kids in the wrong direction. Well, why are they doing that? Because that's what they were taught, and that's their experience. So, and that gets back to belief, you know. And I don't know how you think like that. I had a guy. He says, how in the world do we get these people to think different? I said, well, for one thing, you're just not going to. I said, so what you got to do is outnumber them.
Yeah.
This be more of you than them, because some people will not listen to reason.
That's true.
You know,
Staring them right in the face.
And Ray, if I go to you and talk to you about something, and you may not agree with it at this point, but I talk to you about it and I ask you to reason that out. Now, you probably will change your reasoning, your thought process. You know, and because all of a sudden you did see where it's wrong. And I'll tell you where you could see this firsthand. That's kind of cool. You say, well, don't take my word for it, right? All you got to do is go to the internet and look at just one walk away video. And that's somebody that finally reasoned. I mean, there's guys on there and gals on there that at one time were rioters.
Oh, yeah.
At one time were burning police cars, destroying businesses, and fighting with the opposite.
Sure.
Who now walked away, and now they are the total opposite. Why? Because they went through a reasoning process. Yeah. So my thoughts on that is I'm sure there's people that are hardcore Democrats, but so were these people, and they changed. So it's not too late for you to change. Well, what are you changing for? Whose benefit? You're changing for your own benefit. That's
Absolutely.
The key to it.
Yeah.
You have to think highly of yourself. You can't think like the indecent people that, like Feinstein and the Democrat feminists that are up there doing what they're doing right now and demonstrating. Do you want to think like that? Do you believe like that?
No.
Are you informed enough about that? You know, they bring up Roe Wade with the Kavanaugh. Kavanaugh is not going to vote that out. I mean, if they have an issue that comes up, he's going to handle it at that time. But
No, he is not going to vote it out.
you know, so
But I've heard the talk, the rhetoric, and you're right, Gary.
well, and then say, well, I want to believe that. You know, I don't believe like they do, but I believe that. Well,
Yeah.
come on, let's get down to the reasoning part.
Sure.
You see. So anyway, well, Ray, I think that Kavanaugh deal is a big, huge deal for all Americans, whether you're tuned in or not. You better be.
You're doggone right.
And it gives you an opportunity then to ask yourself the question, there's something wrong with this nation
Oh,
when we could take a 15-year-old girl 36 years later
and let her make the determination.
and let her
Supreme
determine
Court.
the Supreme Court, which is probably it's a position even more serious than the president.
I think so. Yeah. And
see?
like you said, they're there for a lifetime.
They're there
President's
forever,
gone after
yeah.
8 years, if he's lucky. You know.
So it's a sad day that we come to realization that this is what it is.
Yeah.
And we're seeing it firsthand, and it's hard to believe for a lot of people, and it's upsetting to a lot of people.
Sure it is. Sure it is.
You mentioned that yourself. I know I am. You know, it's like, oh man, how disgusting is something like that?
I tell you, I sit there
But
and
how
watch
scary
it.
it is, how dangerous it is.
And then this morning, I was watching it again. I was really busy, and I was on my iPad doing stuff for the business. But I'll tell you, like you and I said, you know, it's scary, and they're scary people. They're very scary people.
I'll tell you, they're
You
evil,
know,
man.
and now they're really gonna. You wonder what's going to happen after he gets confirmed, because I think he will. What are they go? they're going to come out with something else. It's going to be, they're not going to stop, you know.
Well, here's the thing. If they win the election in midterm, let's say that Kavanaugh is confirmed, and what their threat is, we win the election and we're going to impeach Kavanaugh. Well, who else are they going to impeach? President Trump, if they win.
Sure.
So there's a lot at
That'll be
stake.
one of the first things they'll do, too.
Oh, yeah.
Or at least make the attempt. You know?
Yeah, that's it. They make the attempt.
Yeah.
And you can imagine, okay, Trump's agenda, which he's kept every one of them, his promises, that he
Yes,
could.
he's kept every one of them.
Yeah, that he can. Now, think about what this country is today without Trump. Okay, I just read this yesterday. Of all the major nations, there's 139 major nations in the world. Their economy, of all these nations, they had different category, but they're listed as stable.
Yeah.
Stable economies.
Yeah.
There was only one that is declining, and that's Brazil. Okay, there's only one that is improving, and that's the United States. Out of all these countries, major countries,
Yeah.
there's only one that's improving, that's the United States. Why would you want the United States to go backwards?
You wouldn't.
You wouldn't think so. But there's going to be people that
Sure.
vote. They don't realize they're voting for the United States to go back to something like Venezuela.
Gosh. And we've talked about that before.
Yeah. So the American public has got to be more engaged somehow, but it's hard because you got 95% of the media that aren't reporting what should be reported. So most people don't hear it. I talked to a guy the other day, and pretty sharp guy, and I asked him a few things about, like we talk about. He knew nothing.
Is that right,
He
Gary?
knew nothing. And I said, well, do you watch the news at all or what? Well, I come home and I turn on KMJ to get the local news. Well, all that is a van full of people running into another van, usually, in a cross section. He says, yeah, I get the local news and the weather and this and that. I said, that's about the extent of it, isn't it? And that's about all it was for him. So he's not being tuned in to what is affecting his life.
Yeah.
And that's a sad deal.
It is.
Now, this
It is.
particular person would vote for Trump anyway. And I look at it this way. If you're not going to vote for Trump, then don't vote at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, just stay home.
Yeah.
If you're going to vote for Trump, then get down there to vote. Because your country's at stake here,
Oh, Gary. It is.
And we got a lot at stake and a lot to lose, and it's...
Well, it's like you said prior to when you had made the prediction that he was going to get elected. Had he not been elected, we had two more things to do to turning this country into a communist nation. That's pretty scary.
Well, and it was that's what it would be right now on that, and our gross national product would probably be less than 1.2%. Now it's closer to 5%.
Is that amazing? Is
In
that
just
just
a
not
year and a
amazing?
half? Just
in
a
a
year
year,
and a
yeah,
half.
in 18 months, less than 2 years.
Yeah, we're looking at 1.2. We'd be looking at, because I'm convinced that Hillary would have gone for a forced labor and call it everybody's employee.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
You said that before, and I think you're right. Of
Well,
course you would've.
that's what they all do.
Yeah.
Eventually.
Yeah.
All socialist communist countries do that.
Yeah.
Okay, what does that mean? Okay, you go into a ghetto, like say in Chicago, and you get a train load of people and you haul them out to the fields. That's what they did in China.
Sure.
That's what they did in Russia.
Yeah.
Russia, Stalin killed 56 million up there in Siberia.
Yeah. Don't hear much about that.
No, you don't hear about that.
Yeah.
You see, but like China, the same thing. That's how you get rid of. I mean, can you imagine going into say Los Angeles, South Central L.A. with a train load, bringing them up here to Huron, pick melons at 110 degrees? How long those people would last?
Oh, they'd be dying off like flies.
And that's how you get rid of them. Venezuela's doing that right now. There's 2 million people trying to get out of Venezuela.
I didn't know that, Gary, but I'm not surprised.
Well, you don't hear it on the TV.
No.
But see, Venezuela right now, those people are actually, there's people starving down there. You know, at one time, Venezuela was one of the richest countries in South America.
I do know that, and now they're what, a third world country? You might as well call them that.
Well, no,
you
no,
know?
they are a third world
Yeah.
country. There's
Yeah.
no, might as well. That's what it is.
Yeah.
But what's important more than that is how about the lives that are being lost,
Yeah.
and how about those poor people? See, they're trying to get into the neighboring countries next door, and those people are having an issue, just like we have an issue with people crossing our
Sure.
border. Which brings up another interesting thing.
Okay.
If Trump and Mexico get together like they seem to be, okay, with this recent agreement, the average wage of every Mexican worker in Mexico is going to go up.
Plus for that country. And you said it before, Gary. It's not going to work unless it works for them and us.
Right.
You know.
And the auto industry is already for sure going to go to $16 an hour.
Jeez, that's a plus.
And that we're talking about jumping from $4 to $8 an hour, which happens to be a good wage right now
Sure.
in Mexico. $4 to $8 an hour.
Of course.
Jumps to 16.
Oh, my
Then
gosh.
what happens to the rest of it? Okay, and it's going to be a great.
There's no reason to leave home, is there?
Well, according to what I've read, we'll find out what this president's all about. But so far, he seems to be like Trump, and that's what Trump advocates at every speech he gives the United Nations and so forth, other nations. Hey, you make your people first. Make them first. And that's what this Mexican president thinks he wants to do.
Yeah.
He wants to make the Mexican people first. Well, that he should.
What an influence he has had over this
Yeah.
man and everybody else that you know.
That's
And
right.
I tell people all the time, I think they ought to give a man the Nobel Peace Prize.
Well, you know, Trump
You know?
doesn't go into a country and try to change the regime.
Yes.
He goes in there, takes the leader, and educates the leader, like Kim Jong-un.
Look where he's at now.
Yeah, look what he's doing now.
Yeah.
And I guess this thing's really going to be interesting. We're talking about one Korea, actually
I'm-
maybe two states.
I'm loving
One
it.
state.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
And you're talking about Kim Jong. That whole North Korea is beautiful,
Yeah.
and they're going to have all kinds of for vacationers or whatever, all over
I'm loving
Asia go there.
You know, ladies and gentlemen, like we do, I say this every day. I know I sound like a broken record. When Gary's here, it flies by because we all learn so much. I do too. And I saved this to the end. Hang with me. We're going to do the show. We're going to do the show with women. We talked about it today. I wish I could give you a date. I cannot. We're still working on it. I work on it every single day because it's so important to me. I'm putting everything in order, and we will announce exactly when it's going to happen. And hopefully it's real soon. So bear with me. We're going to do it. I didn't realize all the things that it took to do this when I said that. I would have hold off saying that, we're going to do it because people are asking me every day at the gym, when's that show? When's that show? We're going to do the show. Take it from me, one way or another, we're going to do the show. And Gary, I'm hoping, buddy, you come back next week because we need you.
We'll
Yeah.
do that. But you know what? I'm hoping now that Kim Jong-un, I hope he gets that McDonald's burger. Trump promised that. I hope he keeps that.
You know what? I'll bet you that Donald Trump is going to deliver that personally to him,
Man,
What a
he'd love to
turnaround.
have that
Oh,
right there
yeah.
in his hometown.
I
I can't
hope that
pronounce.
happens.
So I always say hometown because I can't pronounce any of those towns.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I've got to tell you that this quick story, and every weekend every week I tell you, go up to a law enforcement officer. There's on my way to the gym every morning, I pass this area where a policeman sits on a motorcycle. And one day I'm going by, and boy, he shot out there. It scared me to death because I thought he was going to have a wreck, and he went after a thing. So I kept waiting for him. And yesterday, I caught him. And I walked over and I said, I want to talk to you. And he said, what did I do? He's kind of joking, And I told him, I said, first of all, I told him what I did and what I did on the show, encouraging people to go up. And I said, I know you got to go chase speeders, but you got a wife and kids at home. And he said, yeah, I've got 3 kids. And I said, you scared me the other day because I thought you were going to get hurt. And you're the kind of person that we need. We need you. We don't need you getting hurt chasing a speeder. And he said, you know what? You're right. You're right. And I said, you think about that wife and kid that's at
Next
home.
time
And
you
he
go
said, you know
jumping
what?
out there.
He says, what's your name? And I said, Ray Johns. He said, thank you, Mr. Johns. for being concerned.
Yeah,
you
that's
know,
wonderful.
it was beautiful, Gary. I loved it. So when you see these people, when you see these law enforcement officers, go up and shake their hands, please. Everybody, they have a thankless job. Let them know how much we appreciate what they do, because we really do. And Gary's done it, and he knows the effect of it. It makes you feel so good to be able to do that with these wonderful men who are out there doing something that we don't want to do. Right. Believe me, I don't want to carry a gun and chase down these idiots. So until we meet again next Friday, joyously, heaven's blessings.
That I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. But I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the